Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory be to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodash. And I want to say double honors to the apostles and the elders, great millstone that rule well. And blessings to the hopeful elect out there listening and learning and teaching this word in sincerity and truth in the hopes that we may edify and feed the lambs of Yahweh Shai, especially in these last days. And, pretty much what I wanted to do is, go into a video here. Pretty much it's going to be lambacking off of a video that Elder Apostle Tahar did, dealing with, as you can see, this video here on the screen, from the channel, What is the 666 Mark II? GMS Truth. Subscribe and be edified. Elder Apostle Tahar's page, and his video that was put up a day ago. We got a madman on our hands. The Hunger Games and the Purge will become a reality in America? Question mark. Question mark. Question mark. And we've been telling you that this man is sadistic. We've been telling you that this man is a devil. We've been telling you about the time of Jacob's trouble. Now, I'm not here saying that they're going to straight up come out with Hunger Games type scenarios out here on them streets, but it's damn sure going to be heavy times to take, heavy times to digest. And when I say Hunger Games type scenarios, I'm talking about the exact blueprints of the Hunger Games. But what we do know is that, pretty much death is going to be the norm in the near future. Death is going to be an average everyday thing on these streets, like especially in these cities. The scriptures tell you, because of the pride, the city shall be troubled. The scriptures tell you also that men shall, one man shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. Was that 2nd Ezra 15? 2nd Ezra 15. And I'm going to start from 14. It says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh." So the sword, these people, they're just waiting to be destroyed, man. Okay, like a lot of people are walking around here acting like their shit don't stink, proud as hell. They don't even know that their demise is just around the corner. You know what I'm saying? And, we that serve and worship Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, we hope that we're going to be spared or protected in that time. That we're going to get divine intervention, if you will. Miracle intervention for brothers in different types of scenarios. And that's our hope, man. I don't give a fuck about you scoffers that don't have hope. We're talking to the elect that do have hope, that call upon the names of Yahweh or Yahweh Shai, that understand Proverbs 18 and 10, that the name of the Lord is a strong tower, and the righteous runneth into it and are safe. I'm talking to the elect that call upon the name of the Lord, that trust in Yahweh or Yahweh Shai, so that when all this happens, when the destruction that comes, the destruction that draweth nigh, when it's actually in front of your face, you're going to be advantageous in that situation, because you're going to have the blessing of the protection of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And that's why, we make these sacrifices in order to ensure that we are protected in that time. Okay. Now, there's been talks about the Department of Homeland Security coming out with, pretty much competitions for migrants over there in Babylon, which is America, where they have to compete against one another for US citizenship. And this is the video here. I've muted it because I don't want to get like any copyright. But look, fair use, fair use, fair use. I'm not making any money from this video whatsoever. I'm just literally putting up this video for educational purposes. And that's what we do, man. We don't teach for filthy lucre, man. We actually, that's why we say shalom to the sincere members of the elect, that really listen to this word and the prophecies that are spoken in this book, to help aid us in our journey in hell, basically, because this is definitely hell. Now, when you got titles like this is MSNBC, right? A sick idea, the title reads, Congressman slams the Department of Homeland Security consideration of immigrant competition reality show. And reality shows have been a thing. It's nothing new, okay? So it's not really something that we should be shocked about or anything, because they've been doing reality TV shows. Over here in the UK, you got The Only Way, Essex, or you got in the States, Babylon, you got Kim, the Kardashians. You know what I'm saying? You had Big Brother over here in the UK, which that was pretty much, the symbol of Big Brother was a big giant eye. Now, if that ain't demonic, I don't know what to tell you. Like, they have the pyramid, and on the top of the pyramid is the all-seeing eye, right? This symbol of the so-called Illuminati or illuminated ones. And pretty much, they're getting you conditioned, to look into the privacy of individuals' lives. And getting you conditioned to pretty much snitch on one another, just like what they had with the Crown Vicky 19, which you know what I mean when I say the Crown Vicky. When they had neighbors snitching on one another if they left the house to go here, there, and everywhere. That's pretty much, neighbors snitching on one another. That's like what you see in shows like Divergent, which Divergent is another one. It's a Hunger Games type of movie, if you will. Now, I've got this Hunger Games up on the screen on the Google here because I wanted to read you the overview of it. Right? It says, Katniss volunteers to replace her sister in a tournament that ends only when one participant remains. So it's basically like a battle royale. It's a fight to the death, basically. All right, pitted against contestants who have trained for this all their life. She has little to rely on. And, they're pretty much turning these, situation with these immigrants into Hunger Games type scenarios, which is going to be, which they're flirting with the idea of it actually being televised. And it's going to be a form of entertainment. All right, and it just so happens to be going down at a time where the current president of the United States, right, a lot of his people that work with him, right, are ex-members of Fox News, which are, in the entertainment field, if you will. And Apostle's been telling us that these news reporters and that, they're nothing but failed actors. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these guys are nothing but failed actors. So what you have to understand is what are they planning? What are they plotting? And even your current president, Donald Trump, he was actually in, I think he was in WWE. All right, so this guy is about entertainment, man. And this ain't nothing but bread and circuses. All right, and bread and circuses is a form of distraction. Okay, what are bread? Let's see if this comes up here. What are bread and circuses? Bread and circuses is a term originating in ancient Rome, referring to a government strategy of pacifying the populace. All right, meaning shutting up the populace by providing basic needs, food or bread, and lavish entertainment. Right, spectacles like gladiatorial contests or circuses. This tactic aims to divert attention from political and social issues and maintain social order. And we know that the New World Order is going to be for them to push out that chip. This is why we tell you to remain circumspect. Okay? In Ephesians 5:15, the scripture says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil." So you have to remain circumspect in these times to know what's going on. Now, if they're coming out and saying that they want to, they've introduced this new sick idea now, the Department of Homeland Security, considering, right, a competition reality TV show of immigrants. And they're saying that one of the prizes is like a £10,000 Starbucks gift voucher. I mean, it's pretty much a mockery. It's dehumanizing. All right. And they're pretty much dehumanizing these immigrants because, remember, there's going to come a time where, how can I say, that the image of the so-called upstanding citizen in society is going to be a thing of the past. It's either going to be you get down with the NWO or it's going to be off with your head. That's why I did a video the other day about France coming up with this, deportation of top criminals in the Amazon rainforest where they can just disappear you at a moment's notice. They've got black sites. Trump just spoke about he wants to bring back Alcatraz. All right. These things are not jokes. All right. The scriptures tell you in Revelation 12:12. Okay. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. So this man knows he has a short time. Okay, so what do you think he's going to be doing because he knows he has a short time? He's going to make sure that he goes all out. All right, especially with the bread and circuses, because the bread and circuses aids him in his ability, right, to divert your attention, right? Divert your attention from political and social issues and maintain social order and ultimately the new world order. And this is what they used in Rome. Gladiatorial games. Like now you got the UFC, you got the boxers, you got the football, you got the NFL, the Super Bowl, whatever. These are forms of bread and circuses set up to entertain you and divert your attention from political and social issues and maintain social order while they're sharpening the sword, while they have these black sites set up, while they're fitting to deport people or immigrants, they're saying now, like in the Children of Men, and they had them in cages, getting barked at by their German shepherds and stuff behind cages, getting tortured, taken to room 101, right? A great wrath in a short time. And we know why they've allowed this immigration system, or slip up, if you will, as they're presenting it to the public, to go ahead with the Biden administration. All right, even over here in Europe, the immigrant crisis is all out of whack. It's all by design. 2 Corinthians 2:11. It says, "Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices." Now you might say, well, how is that by design? Because they need a chaotic situation in order to come forth with order, the new world order. All right. I remember the time they had these pop-up journalists. They were interviewing certain people, immigrants at the border, and they were asking them, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" And there was one individual that they had which went mainstream in the news. And he said, "Look, you don't know who I am. Soon you're going to know who I am." Letting you know that they're letting these people, or they're letting the public know at least, that there are potential individuals that could potentially, right, do some heinous shit out here. Which are nothing but agents, which are, you got Esau setting up, he's got his agents out here that are going to do what they're going to do to create more civil strife and unrest. All right, more false flag attacks and so on and so forth. You just had over here in the UK, Saturday gone, you just had 2 Iranians get arrested on the UK terrorism watch list. Okay, they're letting you know that, pretty much be afraid, be very afraid. They're bringing the public to their knees to the point where the public's just going to be like, look, we need everyone chipped. The masses of the people are going to actually be for the chip. Why? Because it's going to introduce a form of safety to them. It's going to allow them to be able to buy and sell in a time of a economic crisis. You got this whole tariff situation going on, right? Hyperinflation. You got cost of living crisis. You got the housing crisis going on. You got masses of homeless people out there. Why do you think this is being set up? You got hatred towards immigrants because the immigrants are getting treated better than the people that actually are already on that soil. Could be in America, could be over here in London, right? And you got immigrants coming over and reaping the benefits, and that's stirring up the hatred. That's why reform over here in the UK is gaining traction. But again, we can't get ignorant of Satan's devices, right? Because we know that this devil's, pulling the strings. Which, who's pulling the devil's strings? The Most High. You see, we're coming into a time of civil war. The Lord said he would set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. That's in Isaiah 19. That's the time that we're coming into, right? Isaiah 19:2. And I will set the Egyptians. Let me start from 1. It says, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And that modern day Egypt is America. Revelation 11:8. The dead body shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. That's how you know this is America is a modern day Egypt. The modern day Pharaoh are these Edomites. The earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. The wicked is Esau, Edom, Malachi 1:4. Esau is the end of the world. Jacob is the beginning of it, the follower. So that the demise and the destruction of Babylon the Great, which is America, is inevitable because the Edomites are ruling in these last days. And Jacob is set up to rule afterwards. Right? And this is why Yahweh Shai is going to ride in upon that swift cloud. Okay? Which is a gigantic so-called UFO. Outlined in Revelation 19. Revelation 6. Alright? Outlined in 2nd Ezra 13. Okay? In fact, in Revelation 6, it speaks about the Lord going forth to conquer. Conquering and to conquer, I believe. 1 Corinthians 15 should come to mind. 15:24. The Lord's going to put down all rule and all authority, for he must reign till he have put all enemies under his feet. Right? Verse 2 now, it says, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And every time I read this verse, I think about that movie Civil War, where you had that Edomite with the red shades on in the military gear. And they even showed him in the trailer, right, pointing a gun at an individual, all right, and asking him, where you from? And the guy was like, I'm an American. He goes, what kind of American are you? So we're going to have, red-blooded Americans with these MAGA hats and that and whatever. You're going to have them, against, they're already against these immigrants. You already see that. You already see the divide in America. And the scriptures tell you that a kingdom divided shall not be able to stand. All right? So when you see these things, man, hey, just understand that the time is close. Let me see if I can put these subtitles on. All right, so you can watch this for yourself because I don't want to get a strike on this by playing this video, but you can watch it for yourself anyway. But Elder Apostle Tahar has been mentioning this now, Trump is a madman, and nothing's impossible, right, under the administration of Trump when it comes to wicked acts. That's why we have to be circumspect. That's why we're bringing out these scriptures and letting you know. And I was in 2nd Ezra 15. Let's go back to that, right? 2nd Ezra 15, verse 15, it says, for the sword and their destruction joyeth not, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. So Ezra was seeing this, and this is the same thing we just read in Isaiah 19. Nation against nation, Egyptian against Egyptian, civil war, right? For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes. Now in the movie Hunger Games, okay, in fact, let me keep reading for a minute before I mention the Hunger Games. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. All right, they ain't going to care about these politicians. They ain't going to care about these members of parliament. They ain't going to care about these guys, the Republicans, the Democrats. They ain't going to care about the government in that day, right? It says, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Now, in the Hunger Games, you had scenarios where You couldn't just go from one district to another. Okay. In fact, let me type in Hunger Games districts. Explanation. Districts explained. Alright. District 1 is luxury items. District 2 is masonry, defense. District 3 is general electronics. It was all split up. District 4 was for fishing. District 5, power and electricity. And I didn't know this. Alright. But the thing is, you're going to have these checkpoints that are going to be set up, stopping you from going from one place to another. Another thing that they showed you this in, over here in the UK, is in a limited series that came out in 2019 called Years and Years. Okay, and they actually showed you, let me type this in, Years and Years. They actually showed you that when it all goes down, in these private security firms or these private security teams that have been hired, right, by the elites, they're going to be set up, they're going to be rolled out there to pretty much set up these chipping stations. Alright, to stop you from going from one place to another, setting up curfews and so on and so forth, you name it. Right, this is the one, Years and Years. It came out 14th of May 2019. It says an ordinary British family contends with the hopes, anxieties and joys of an uncertain future in this 6-part limited series that begins in 2019 and propels the characters 15 years forward into an unstable world. The story begins as members of the Lyons clan converge for the birth of the newest family member, baby Lincoln, and an outspoken celebrity begins her transformation into a political figure whose controversial opinions will divide the nation. So this divide, right? Again, this is predictive programming. And she was always dressed in purple. I remember this woman, her name was Vivian Rook. Spoiler alert if you ain't seen it. But she was always dressed in purple. And pretty much she would just effing blind. She would say whatever she wanted. Alright, but she started gaining traction against the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. Okay. If I type in Vivian Rook. Yeah, this woman here. Alright, and she was a member of they called her the 4-Star Party. Because I don't know if it's a spin on, because one time she was getting questioned like on a panel like you see her now. And she was like, in terms, and they even mentioned the conflict between Israel and Palestine. And I think she said something in response to that. She said, I don't give a fuck. F-U-C-K. So I think it was a spin off of the F word that they named her the 4-Star Party. You know, star, as in the swear word, F-U-C-K. And you see the purple behind her? Okay. Now, when you look up Reform, okay, Reform UK. Damn, my typing is crazy right now. Right? You always see them represented in purple. You know, the UKIP, it was rebranded, what was it, BNP and UKIP, now Reform, repackaged, basically. But they're gaining traction over here in the UK. And there's a reason for that. Now, you might say, this is just a coincidence. It's conspiracy theory and this and that and whatever. But, hey, predictive programming is a thing. Now, when you watch that Years and Years, they go into a lot. They go into the concentration camps where they were jamming signals. You weren't able to get messages outside of that camp, or messages weren't allowed to come in because they had these towers, 5G towers set up outside of them, blocking transmission. So the thing is, I said all of that just to go back to this now, right? There's going to come a time where they are going to lock people down. And there are going to be guillotines. There's going to be torture chambers. All right. And there is going to be a desire to go to a city, but you're not going to be able. There's going to be chipping stations set up. And these things are a thing. It's going to happen. The scriptures don't lie. It says a man should desire to go into a city and should not be able. For because of their pride, right, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. So this is the time of Jacob's trouble, man. And the scriptures tell you that it's a time like no other since there was a nation. They're going to cut off, they're going to throttle the food supply, the ability to have water, right? And they're going to bring this nation to their knees. And the only way out is for you to take that chip. And you will own nothing and be happy. As they always say with the World Economic Forum, right? A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. That's why we're witnessing the cost of living crisis right now. That's why we're witnessing inflation. That's why we're witnessing a housing crisis, homelessness, immigrant crisis. All of these things are engineered. They're set up behind the scenes for this man to come forth with the solution. Remember, Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. They control both sides and squeeze the people in the middle so that they can come forth with the ultimate solution. And we're telling you this so that you know what's coming, so that you know not to take the chip. And if there's any other camps out there saying that the MOTB, the mark of the beast, is not the chip, then they're going off. All right. So I mean, I could speak more on this this topic, which I probably might come back and do another, because there's so much I could talk about. I could go into the children and men. I can go into the road, these types of movies, right? But they put predictive programming in shows like this, and you had this girl here. You know, she was able to call her mum, which is this so-called black woman up here, but above her, she was able to call her because she was transhuman. And she was implanted with the chip, and she could basically call her mum by clicking her fingers together like that. And she called her mum in a restaurant. You know, and she was hyped about it. You know what I'm saying? She was hooked up to the Internet of Things. That's transhumanism. So this is predictive programming at its finest, man. All right, so yeah, I would recommend that's a definite watch, you know, for you Arkham, you know, but yeah, man, I could speak about Divergent. That's another film. All right, which they show you the chip in Divergent, where, you know, the chip made people even want to commit suicide. You know, because they're going to have total control. Like Aaron Russo said to Alex Jones in that interview. Or what Alex Jones responded to what Aaron Russo said to him about the chip. He goes, total control. That's what they want, total control. Okay, but remember, the scripture says, man, in Job 20 and 22, it says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. All right, so when Esau is in the fullness of his sufficiency, he's going to be in a position of difficulty. That's what straits means, right? Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him, which is talking about the laborers. When he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So you see that? So when Esau thinks he's got things down packed and everything's running, the NWO and that, people are getting chipped, that's when things are going to move quick, and the Most High is going to cast his fury of his wrath on him. All right, so the Lord's going to intervene, man, and that's why we're waiting for the miracles. You know, the Lord said that, you know, in Revelation 3:10. Let's get that and close out on this one. Right, it says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Right? So that's the time that we're coming to. Everyone's going to be tested, you know. But we got to be patient. The word patient means to suffer. Right? In the hour, especially in the hour of temptation, when they push out that chip and everyone gets tried. Are you going to take the chip, or are you going to fold under the pressure because you want to eat, or you want to please your woman, or, you know what I'm saying, or your children and that. You know, behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. So this is a battle, man, and we got to endure it to the end. The scripture says much tribulation to enter into the kingdom. All right, so yeah, it's going down. I mean, the fact that they're openly talking about, you know, considering an immigrant competitions as a reality show, man, this is like some purge type scenarios, Hunger Games type scenarios, Divergent type scenarios. You know, so yeah. Anyway, man, with that, I pray you were edified. Shalom to the elect.